Sorry for the delay, guys, I've been pretty busy, so anyhow, I wanted to get this video out before it sinks into total fucking irrelevance. With the reveal of William Adams from Neo, the full roster of Musou stars is now known, and here is my opinion on them. And to be honest, it's half good, half disappointing, so you can stop watching now if you like, but for those of you interested, I will now expand upon that. All info is subject to change when the game releases, so don't lose your fucking heads over this. Take my opinion with a pinch of salt, or a fucking whole vat for that matter. I will no doubt butcher the pronunciation of a lot of these characters' names, so there'll be a picture of the character when I talk about them. So let's get started. The Dynasty Warriors series has 4 representatives, 3 of them being pretty obvious choices. Zhao Yun, because of course he's in a game like this. Lu Bu, I mean, duh, you can't have Dynasty Warriors without him. Wang Yuanji, because of her rack. And the wildcard Zhou Sang, a fictional character added to promote Dynasty Warriors 9, which is still probably a year off in my opinion. From what I've seen, Koei has been kind of lazy with 3 of these characters. What I mean by that is they've kept a majority of their attacks, but just added extras to them, X attacks if you will. They have also changed some, Zhao Yun's 6th charge attack for example, which was actually his coolest one in my opinion, and Lu Bu's 1st and 2nd charge attacks have also changed. Also, because some of the enemies in the games are Punies from Atelier series, i.e. the little blue blob, they've removed grapple attacks, so Lu Bu's Musou, in this game is his grapple one, also ultimate might or whatever the fuck it's called, but they've made it a ground slam instead, and because of the removal of grapples that also means one of his charge attacks is going to change and his first X attack. Just a thought. Those were all pretty cool moves. So I like the additions of Lu Bu and Yuanji, however Zhao Yun is getting a bit stale at the moment. If they hadn't had him as the main character in Godseekers, then maybe he'd be a bit more tolerable. Because let's remember, he's not the main character in Warriors Archie 3, despite appearing on the cover, which was actually one of the great things about that game. They didn't pick the most popular characters for the main ones. They picked them based on story and personality, and all stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do the same here. Finally, the wildcard edition, that being Zhou Sang. Fuck me. Why 2 shoe characters? Out of all the characters they could have picked, they picked this insignificant worm, to quote Lu Bu. There's been 16 characters added to the Dynasty Warriors series since the release of Warriors Archie 3, and this is who they pick. Just what the fuck? Well, there is one positive about him, and that's that they've added a completely new moveset for him. So it's not like Nima in Warriors Archie 3, who used the short pike moveset, but just changed it to a spear, which was really fucking lazy of them. I don't really get why they've added his move though, because they're only going to change it in Dynasty Warriors 9, from what most of us have heard, so... Moving on, Samurai Warriors characters, there's 3, Yukimura, Mitsunari and Naotora. Pretty good picks, I'm happy with those. Slightly disappointed with Mitsunari though. I personally think his moveset is pretty fucking wank. But they have added new attacks in this, so hopefully they'll give him quite the buff he needs, give him a bit more range, all that good stuff. Naotora and Yukimura, obvious picks. They have kept a majority of their moves. They have changed Yukimura's grapple attack in his 4th charge string, so that is a bit strange. As long as they don't bring back his 1st charge string from Samurai Warriors 1 to 3, it'll all be good in my book. So I'm quite happy with them, especially with Naotora. She's up there. She's pretty good. So the Toukiden series now, another 3 characters. I don't know why, but there we go. So they've added Oka from the original Toukiden, Horo from Toukiden Kiwami, so Toukiden 1.5 basically, and Tokitsugu from Toukiden 2. So in my opinion, they could have just gone with 2. As Horo and Tokitsugu both use rifles, they could have just consolidated them into the Professor character, or Doctor, whatever she's going to be known in the English version of Toukiden 2. Moving on though. So Oka fights with a great sword, slow and powerful. I'm looking forward to playing as her, quite honestly. She has a sweet launcher attack with a follow-up where she causes dark energy around the launched enemies and slashes them to bits. So like I said, Horo and Tokitsugu fight with rifles. However, Horo throws grenades or fireballs, whatever you want to call them. They're little bomb things, and she shoots them, while Tokitsugu jumps about and shoots things in midair. I can't particularly say I like the look of either of those movesets. Tokitsugu reminds me of the Sabaton's moveset in Dynasty Warriors 8, also known as Guansua's new moveset, which was utter shite. It's not like these two characters have been playable before this, so in Toukiden they just use the stock AI attack animations. Like, nobody would care if they didn't add them, I'm pretty sure, but, you know, whatever. Like I said, would have just been better to have Professor. She's the 4th fan favourite in the series. She's a girl, she fights with a rifle, she represents Toukiden too. And to add insult to injury, Horo looks like a younger version of my mum, if my mum dyed her hair blue. So that's why I'm also annoyed. I can't play as a lookalike of my mum. There we go, but whatever. So one decent character out of those 3. And then we have the Atelier series. 2 characters, both from Atelier Sophie. Both the main characters, or major characters. So we have Sophie and Plachta. I presume that's how you pronounce her name. So I'm looking forward to playing as both of these, because I've started playing the Atelier series. I've started with Atelier Rorona though, because it got a remaster on PS Vita. So from the looks of it, they play like they do in the game. So Sophie uses in-battle items, i.e. consumables and bombs and such, and she also uses her staff against enemies. While Plachta uses her in-battle skills and uses massive iron gauntlets that she sort of has in front of her and then sort of moves her arms about, sort of like Zosa in Dynasty Warriors in a way, except they're fists, and she actually looks quite badass. She also summons a massive fish down on enemies, which is quite funny. One thing about these characters is they look slightly out of place with their cel-shaded graphics compared to the classic appearance of Warriors games. Speaking of cel-shaded characters, there are another 2, those being Hajime Arima and Darius from Harukanaru Toki no Nakadi. If I've butchered that, I don't really care. So the series they come from is released in Japan only, so I don't think any of us here in the West knows too much about them. But what I will say is they do look pretty good. Hajime fights in the same style as Zotai. He sheathes his sword after each combo and all that good stuff. So Darius is similar, except he uses a rod with a built-in sword, so kind of like Uchiyasu Hojo from Samurai Warriors. I like the look of both of these characters. They look quite interesting. They are pretty boys, so they do fill the quota of, you know, getting fangirls' panties wet. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those 2 play out, if they're anything like the series they're from. But seeing as they haven't released one of those games in the West, I very much doubt any of us will know. Next, we have the 2 ladies from Deception. So we have Melina and Lagrina. From what I've seen and what's in the background, they both fight with traps that they summon from the ground in front of them. So quite similar to each other, except Lagrina places her traps on the ground and then can set them off by using charge attacks, which is, you know, quite interesting. They look quite good, but maybe a bit too gimmicky for me. I mean, the traps are all a couple of feet away from them when they attack, so it'll be interesting to see how they're able to fight bosses and enemies on harder difficulties when they're right fucking next to you. I'm kind of confused why they needed to add 2 characters to fight in the same really gimmicky manner, but yeah, still quite early to judge. Now we move on to the final 2 Gust characters, which are both from Knights of Azure. Those being Arnes, you know, the main character, and one I predicted in my previous video, and Christophorus, who is a companion and apparently love interest for her. So Arnes uses her demon sword thingy and also summons support animals to help her for some of her attacks. From what I've seen, it is to help her into the air or to launch enemies in the air as well. And her Musou move is a transformation into her demon form. Now, I've seen people complain that she's only got 1 transformation, and I'm here thinking, like, Koei aren't going to massively change the whole mechanics of the game just to appease you boring cunts. They've just most likely kept it nice and simple with 1 transformation to keep her in line with everyone else. They're not going to add specific mechanics just so you can get a fucking hard-on because they added more features to one character than another. So, you know, fucking pipe down. Christophorus, on the other hand, reminds me of Himiko from Warriors Archie because she fights accompanied by 2 objects, one either side, but instead of golems, or whatever you want to call them, they are French horns. She looks alright, I guess. I don't really have much to say about her. Does seem a bit gimmicky with the whole ranged symphony thing, but yeah, at least she does fight right in front of her with her conductor's stick or whatever the fuck it is. So Yeah, look, they both look alright. More interested in Arnis though. There we go, the main bulk of the character roster, making up for a whole fucking 13% or whatever. And that is, so Dead or Alive and Ninja Gaiden. So all these characters are in Dead or Alive as well as Naotora. Obvious picks all around. So we have Ryu, Ayane, Kasumi, Honoka, and Mary Rose. Maybe there's too many of them though, but then who would you remove? So the answer being you can't really remove any of them. They're all fan favourites, especially Honoka and Mary Rose, but whatever, can't say I'm a fan of her. But so we have Ayane and Ryu representing Ninja Gaiden here, so they'll fight with their weapons as opposed to fists, and the other three are all fighting with their fists, with the exception of Kasumi, who's shown to use her Ninpo from Ninja Gaiden 3. So actually, I would like to retract my statement earlier about grapple attacks, because I forgot Ryu uses his Izuna drop and Ayane with her grapple from Ninja Gaiden as well. So presumably, these attacks will change when you try and use it on bigger enemies or ones that are maybe too small. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, just an interesting thought that they removed Lubu's grapples, but they kept them for Ryu and Ayane. Just a thought. So, the Ninja Gaiden characters have their moves from Ninja Gaiden 3. They both look agile. Ayane has a sick-ass move where she throws an explosive dagger and then follows it up and creates a tornado. Looks pretty good. Slightly weird without the blood in the thing, but she does look more of a crowd killer, while Ryu looks more suited to solo targets like officers, just as it should be, really, with him. As, you know, Ninja Gaiden is more about maximum 5-on-1, but a bit like a gangbang, really, but... So moving on to the actual Dead or Alive characters, Kasumi is using her gimmick from Dead or Alive. She's using her teleporting attacks. She does look slightly slower. Maybe it's because the camera's behind her though, so it's hard to say. Be interesting to play as her. I like the teleporting attacks, although she can now create doubles. So there's a nice little twist on her. Nice to see they didn't just recycle the moves from Warriors Archie 3 though, so that is a plus. And Marie Rose and Honkers, as I call her. So I can't really say much about these two because they're not characters I play as in Dead or Alive. But what I have played of them, they have similar moves in this. So Honkers looks pretty good because she copies the moves of other fighters like Elliot, Kokoro and Jan Lee. And some of their moves can be seen in her gameplay. Honkers looks like she uses a modified version of her Power Blow for her Musou attack. Power Blow being an attack from Dead or Alive, not a powerful blowjob. But here I'm not sure if Marie does. Someone let me know if she does. It does look a bit weird because they will have a close-up in Dead or Alive when you do your final attack on an enemy using your Power Blow, but I don't think she has hers. Whatever. I'm also kind of excited to play as these two because they're almost blank canvases when it comes to the story and lore at least. Because they only have a small backstory for Dead or Alive and they're not featured in the story mode of that game, Koei can do whatever they really want with these two without much backlash from fans. So it'll be interesting to see how they're handled. I'm quite interested in those two actually. Maybe Honker's a bit much because she actually has tits. So now our final 4 crossover characters. They all are solo characters, so they're the only characters from the games they come from. So they are Opuna, Nobunyaga, Ryo Tachibana and William Adams. One obvious choice from Koei, that being William, seeing as Neo has just been released and is getting universal praise around the place. He does look ridiculously good here. He fights with a katana and has a spirit which gives him buffs or something like that. I haven't played Neo, so I'm not 100% sure, but he does get his sword with a blue aura around it, so I presume that is like a potion or something. He does, interesting, have an English voice in this, which is a strange move from Koei, seeing as all the crossover characters from Warriors Archie all spoke Japanese, despite, you know, people like Joan of Arc being French, so there's that. Also, I don't know why they gave him an Irish accent in Neo and made him come from Ireland. He was born in Kent, which is like the furthest possible place in England away from Ireland, but whatever, yeah, fuck it, he's Irish, despite not being Irish at all. Fuck that. Yeah, I'm also quite interested in William because I want to see if they'll give him a rival with Lubu, seeing as Lubu has no equal in this game. Unless they have a hidden character or some shit. Unless one of the... yeah. Unless they elevate somebody else to that spot. Or maybe they've just changed Lubu completely. So next is Nobunaga. So he is Koei's mascot. If you didn't know that already, he is a cat version of Nobunaga. He looks super fun to play as. He fights sort of like Chengong. By that, I mean he summons subordinates to attack. However, the difference is that Nobunaga himself fights with an Aquabus. So another rifle user, if you will. A bit sick that they've added a bunch of range characters in this game. So he, unlike the other characters shown so far, does actually look quite funny. Because he has a big head, and 2, his Musou attack has a rifle squad, and one of them fucks up at the end. So that's quite funny. He reminds me of Sonsaku from Senran Kagura, where she messes up her attacks at the end after she's done damage. So it'd be interesting to see if there's more attacks like that. I'm looking forward to him, quite honestly. Another character he's actually like is Guohuai. You know, where he does his Musou, where he launches them in the air and then he collapses on the ground. So it's sort of like that, except it's actually funny here. And now, finally, 2 characters I've never heard of in my fucking life. So Ryo Tachibana. Ryo looks pretty good. She's from a series called Super Blackjack, and apparently has something to do with Dead or Alive 2. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I literally spent 2 seconds researching her. So she's another character like the Deception Girls by summoning stuff in front of her, but unlike them, she also uses martial arts for her normal attacks. And secondly, she summons casino items like cards, dice, one-armed bandits, etc. She does look more practical than the Deception Girls. A pretty strange addition though. It'll be interesting to see who she interacts with in-game, as she's the only character from Super Blackjack and does look massively different in terms of graphical style than the other girls from Dead or Alive. And finally, the strangest addition to the game, Opuna. So Opuna is from a Wii exclusive game of the same name. He's a little ball-like alien that fights with a bonbon, which floats above his head. So by bonbon they mean just a ball. Just no words. Out of all the characters they could have added in the entire back catalogue of games Koei has, this is the one they pick. He's not even from a fucking PlayStation title. It's not like he's going to promote the game he's from and there's no sequel to this game, so, like, what the fuck? And the game he's from came out in 2007. Like, no one is going to care. Be interesting to see how they handle him. It would be ironic, though, if he is the most powerful in the entire cast. There is a scene where Lubu does say, "Can anyone challenge me?" or some shit, and this guy appears in front of him, so I just have no words for this character. Can't say I care. Disheartening that we didn't get a Shahoo done, but we got this fuck. What in the fuck are you doing? So, finally, Koei has added 3 original characters. So, a bit like Warriors Orochi when they added Daji and Orochi himself in the first game, except there's now 3 of them. So, they are Tamaki, Shiki, and Setsuna. Shiki obviously not being the character from Senran Kagura. They're all anthropomorphic fox things. So, these 3 represent the 3 factions in the game, with each of them being the leaders. They all fight differently. So Tamaki uses a mirror which fires lasers. Shiki fights with orbs, kind of like Kanbei from Samurai Warriors if he was, 500 years younger. And Setsuna fights with an energy sword. So not really original. Those weapons have been used by other characters. Obviously the mirror used by Tamamo no Mai. Shiki's weapon used by Kanbei, like I said, and the energy sword is obviously Yoshitsune Minamoto's weapon in Warriors Orochi. They all look pretty promising. That's all I have to say. Not really a fan of their appearance though. Nice to see they did all give them different coloured fur, so we can differentiate between them. So yeah, they all look alright. So to summarise, there's loads of characters in the game that attack by flailing their arms about, but don't actually hold a weapon, which is kind of disappointing. They're all like Zosa in a way. We'll see in game if they actually have more attacks than that. So also to summarise, I'm quite interested in a few of the characters, but disappointed in a handful, mainly the Dynasty Warriors characters and the Toukiden characters. I'm really disappointed they didn't include a Wei or Wu character. That's shafting most of you Dynasty Warriors fans, in a way. Not everyone's favourite faction is Shu, despite the developers being, you know, Liu Bei's bitches. Yeah, suck him off a bit harder, why don't you?
Just deep. Try to get really deep, right up to the balls.
And do you put the balls in?
What?
I've heard you've got to put the balls in, really, to make it work.
Yeah, can do.
I also feel they could have had more Dynasty Warriors characters in general. I mean, there's like 83 to 4 characters in that series, and they picked 4. That's like fucking 5%. Just don't get it. Hashtag fucking livid. I also don't get why they didn't include a Warriors Archie character like Yoshitsune Minamoto. He would have been a pretty good addition, I think. It's not like... So, I understand why they haven't added Archie or Daji. They are important to the story because Archie escapes from the Mystic Realm and then he brings the world together, thus summoning all the characters. But Yoshitsune is just summoned back from the past, so he's not vital to the story. So he could have been one of the ones they summoned back, but whatever. I'm also slightly disappointed they didn't include characters from other Warriors titles. I mean, they got Sophitia from Soul Calibur and Warriors Archie, so why couldn't they have pushed harder for characters like Darien from Arslan or any of the Straw Hat Pirates, really? But thinking about that, that would be pretty fucking weird, though. It would have been good to have Luffy, because I mean, he has range on his attacks, and he fights with his fists. So that would have been good, not just, you know, the close quarters combat with Hanoka and Marie Rose. There is always hope with DLC though, which from what rumours are going around, they will actually give them a story. So it's not just their movesets like in Hyrule Warriors. So that is kind of a surprise. Whether that's true though is another story. Be interesting to see if they add more endings for these ones. Yeah, I mean, half the cast is alright, half the cast isn't. So who are you looking forward to? Who would you like to see as DLC? Let us all know in the comments section below. Thank you. I will see you next week for a special video. Thank you. Bye bye.